into the chapter, a very long, lengthy chapter with a lot of events, a lot of details. But what's the undercurrent that's happening here, we're seeing the expression of leadership by Shlomo HaMelech. Even though he's a youngster, 12 years old, starting his kingdom, but he's the divine choice of God. He has the capabilities. And in this last incident, where his brother Adoniyahu tried to ask innocently, as if, to marry Avishaga Shunammit, the woman that was lying down next to David to preserve the body temperature of David, that or maybe convinced the mother, Bathsheba, maybe it's a good idea, maybe he'll settle for this, he won't have any more jealousy, maybe we'll get him out of the kingdom's house and get her out of the kingdom's house. Maybe she's like a rival, a former rival. It's clear that Adoniyahu is that Shlomo is shrewd. He sees that this is part of a plan, maybe by the advice of, who did we see? By Yoav and Evyatar, to go ahead and get Adoniyahu into the kingdom. And therefore he orders in Pasuk 25, Vayishlach HaMelech Shlomo biyad Benayahu ben Yehuda, vayifga bo vayamot. He orders the killing of Adoniyahu. And now that is taken care of. What's in the background? That maybe Evyatar was behind this. And remember, Evyatar was giving support to the so-called revolt. We can call it halachically the rebellion against David's kingdom, Shlomo. He was the acting Kohen Gadol. He may have had good understanding that David is incapacitated. Maybe it's better for someone older like Adoniyahu to be the ruler of Israel and not a 12-year-old young adult to be in kingdom. But it's clear the orders of David that people that were a threat to the stability of David's kingdom might well as be a threat to the stability of the kingdom of Shlomo. 25, the orders given to Evyatar, get out of here. Evyatar Kohen Amar HaMelech, Anatot lech al sadecha, which is other words for get out of here. This is driving him away. Driving away to where? Anatot. Some of you know even where Anatot is.
On the way out from the... Remember you took us on the way to Binyamin?
Right, exactly. When we go to Pisgat Ze'ev and go down the road and past the security terminal, instead of turning north to the towns of the Benjamin area, we can go east to the towns of the Benjamin area. And the first Arab village on the right is Anatta, which is the preservation of the Tanakhic name, Anatot. So to the left we have a Hebrew village there, a Yeshuv Anatot. We know who lived there, born, bred, and saw the destruction and smoke from there? Yirmiyahu. Excellent. So too, Evyatar Kohen, it happens to be a city of Kohanim, okay, in the tribal area of Binyamin. And he's basically saying, get out of here, go back home. Why? Ki ish mavet ata. The term ish mavet, why do you think he's an ish mavet? Because you basically, as Rashi explained, you rebelled against me Shlomo, okay? When you were with Adoniyahu, when you're ready to put him into power, with me not knowing about this. We call that mered, rebellion. And therefore, as the Rambam brings in the laws of kings, according to the Gemara in Sanhedrin, anyone that goes up against the king deserves death. So, but he's not putting him to death. Why? What were the instructions of his father? Find reason, find circumstances that he doesn't grow to become an old man and start receiving Social Security. Rather, so let's see, right now he doesn't kill him, but he sends him away. Uvayom hazeh lo amitecha, and there's a reason why not. Why I'm not going to kill you? Ki nasat et aron Hashem Elokim lifnei David avi, v'chi et anita b'chol asher tana David. So Shlomo, like his father David, recognizes goodness. Evyatar Sachakol is not a totally corrupt person. He's a tzaddik. He thought maybe that Adoniyahu was the right person. He made a mistake. However, in the past, there were 2 times that he was serving God in a very, very national, special way. It says literally, you lifted up the Aron of Hashem. But anyone remembers when David had to flee, going east because of his son's Avshalom's rebellion, Instead of David staying there with his soldiers and having a terrible bloody civil war, he opted to leave and he fled going east, Mount Olives, and then went down into the Judean desert. He made a pit stop somewhere, and on the way, who comes? Eviatar. And what is he carrying? The Aron HaKodesh. David says, look, I don't have a monopoly. I'm not the sole owner of the Holy Ark. There's no reason to take the Ark out of Yerushalayim, which David waited a long time to bring the Ark into Yerushalayim. After years of being in Galut, after the initial destruction of Shiloh and the Ark going into the Plishtim camp, David brought into Yerushalayim the Ark at a time which was right. So when David was fleeing, because of Avshalom, Eviatar carried the Ark to David, and then he was given the order to bring it back to Yerushalayim. But he did a very benevolent act, an act of kindness, an act of showing support, trust. I'm on your side. For that, I'm not killing you. You showed support to my father. Another instance is, what does it mean that you suffered also what my father suffered? The Mefarshim are talking about the terrible incident of Nov Ira Kohanim. As we remember in Sefer Shmuel, Shaul accepted Lashon Hara, and he thought that all the Kohanim in the city of Nov, which is somewhere towards Mount Olives, were collaborators with David against the present king Shaul Saul. What did Shaul do? He killed, what was it, 80 members of Kohanim, 85? He killed so many Kohanim, a terrible atrocity. All the Kohanim were killed there, almost everyone except for Eviatar. Eviatar showed allegiance to David, and he was able to flee and show his allegiance to him. For those two reasons, today, I'm not killing you, Eviatar, but I'm sending you home. And you have to be on your best behavior. If not, I will do according to what my father said and have you killed. Pasuk Kav Zayin, here it is. Vayigara Shlomo et Eviatar, miyot kohen Lashem. That's it. It's the end of his term. Eviatar can no longer serve as the Kohen Gadol. Now this is a major thing. Why? The next part of the pasuk. Lemalei dvar Hashem asher diber al Beit Eli b'Shilo. Almost 100 years earlier, when we saw and learned about the terrible destruction, the Plishtim infiltrated from southern Israel, Ashkelon, Gaza, that area, all the way into the center or the northern part of the Benjamin area towards the Shomron, the mountains of Shiloh, and there they brought destruction and they exiled the Holy Ark into their hands. There we saw a prophecy. That the house of Eviatar will no longer rule over, to become the Kohen, will remain the Kohen Gadol. It remained for a few generations from where Eviatar came from, his family, from Eli. Eli was the last acting Kohen Gadol. Eviatar comes from the family of Eli. Okay. Today, is there a town in the name of that last Kohen Gadol? Right, there's a flourishing town. The gentleman, the polite gentleman sitting next to me, is a veteran member of the town that today has more than 1,000 families, Bli Ayin Hara, living there, right? And that's right next to Shiloh, named after Eli, right? North of Yerushalayim. So when the destruction of Shiloh happened, the seed of Eli was announced that it will end. When is that coming into existence? Right now. Eviatar is the last ending member of the house of Eli as the Kohen Gadol. It will now cease and stop here. Okay? That's what he is pronouncing. Of course, Shlomo, even though he was a youngster, he received all these prophecies from his father. His father taught him all the oral Torah, handing down the oral Torah and former prophecies. So he's well aware of this, and Shlomo knows this as well. Kafchet 28, Vashmua, the rumor? And you're probably going to ask, what rumor? Ba'a ad Yoav. What rumor has arrived to Yoav, who you know is also on the blacklist of Shlomo? What do you think? Which rumor has he heard? Could be the chasing away of Eviatar, but even more strict, what happened not long ago? The death of Adoniyahu. So it's likely that the Shumat the Tanakh is talking about the death of Adoniyahu, and as you say, Yehuda, the chasing away of Evyatar. That arrives where Yoav is. Why? Ki Yoav nata acharei Adoniyahu. Mr. Yoav, it's clear to us, he was one of the promising supporters of Adoniyahu, and whatever is related to that matter of Adoniyahu, he certainly gets to his ear. V'acharei Avshalom lo nata. Interesting. The Tanakh shows a contrast. On the one hand, Adoniyahu supported Yoav, who was the former chief of staff, the head of the army of Shaul and David. He, at a certain time, supported Adoniyahu, which is going against David when David is still alive, right? And certainly going up against Shlomo. On the other hand, the Tanakh says in contrast, he did not support Avshalom. He did not support Avshalom. However, Chazal say the following, and Rashi brings it, and it's in the name of Chazal. Radak also brings it. You're right that in the terrible, almost bloody rebellion of Avshalom against his own father, Yoav didn't support it. However, he was considering it in his heart. Chazal say that Yoav was considering supporting who? Mr. Avshalom against his own father, but he didn't join it because of the fear that he had for David. Well, do you get good points? If you want to do a mitzvah, you certainly do. But if someone is going on the wrong path and you had some bad plans to join someone, then we see that you're going to get points for that. Chazal hold him as a culprit, negligent, that he was thinking of joining this rebellion, even though he didn't join them in the end. And that's brought to air over here. We explained in our shirim last few days ago, Yoav has many zchuyot, a tremendous, heroic commander, leader for David, and David doesn't forget it, and therefore David maybe had reluctancy. I'm not going to do away with Yoav, though maybe halachically he should have, because Yoav in two different occasions posed threats to the stability of the kingdom of David. The point is brought here that Mr. Yoav has some bad points, and for that reason, now that he hears that Adoniyahu was put to death, I don't know if my life right now, I'm vulnerable. What does he do? Vayanos Yoav el Ohel Hashem vaychazek bekarnot hamizbeach. He fears that he's next in line, and because he fears he's next in line, he runs to the tent of God that David has produced in Yerushalayim. There, the holy ark is there, and he holds on to the corners of the Mizbeach. You don't have old part? No. I don't want to be considered a culprit, taking away. So, okay. So what I want to say is, let's explain. What's your question? We'd like to air your question.
Yes. So that doesn't mean physically that he grabbed onto the karnot.
Okay.
It was means like within a certain area and it's considered protection.
Are you aware that in the book of Shemot, Parshat Mishpatim, the Torah says, "Mi'im mizbechi tikachenu lamut." There are cases that if someone is holding on to the corners of the Mizbeach, it's like a city of refuge. But there are persons that it does not provide shelter or refuge for them. Just be aware of the pasuk.
Someone who killed the Kavanah.
Right, very good. Quote in Shemot 21, verse 14, V'chi yazid ish al reyehu lehargor ve'orma. If someone wantingly, with will and intention, killed someone deceptively, me'im bizbechi, from my altar, tikachenu lamut. From here we understand that the Mizbeach for others can act as a source of shelter, protection, that he cannot be brought to death. Okay? That'll be the source in Parshat Mishpatim. The Gemara, in several places, Masechet Sanhedrin, deals with this matter. Now, first of all, why did he hold on to the corners of the Mizbeach? Because Yoav feels and understands 2 + 2 = 4, meaning what I did in the past I'm obligated death. The fact that I supported Adoniyahu, the fact that maybe he killed also, who did he kill? Who? Avner ben Ner and Asael and so on. The fact that he did those things, he sees himself that he's obligated mitah. Otherwise, why would he go run and grab onto the corners of the Mizbech? Okay? But it's basically because of another thing that we didn't mention here, and that is Avshalom. What clear instructions were issued by David? No one kill my son. Catch him, grab him, hunt him down, but do not kill him. What did Yoav do? He took the law into his hands. He said, I know better than the king. Which, if he didn't say it in the words, but that's the way he's been acting in his entire career. There are times that he objects to what the orders of the kings, what the order of King David, what it is. And for killing of Shalom, it brought a lot of sorrow, a lot of sadness, in addition to being an act of rebellion against David.
Who killed Absalom?
Yoav. Otherwise, really,
He was upset with that, right?
very. Therefore, why would Shlomo, right now, as we're about to learn, to give an order to have him killed? Okay? But rather, it's clear to us right now that the reason that he's running to the Mizbech, because he knows that in the past, he's obligated because of the death of Avshalom. As a result, when word gets out, Pasuk Kafted Vayugad LaMelech Shlomo, right? His intelligence men give him the information that what? Kinas Yoav Elo El Hashem, he's fled and he's arrived to the tent of God where the Mizbech is. V'hinei, behold, Eitzel HaMizbech. He's there, obviously for protection as we're adding. What does Shlomo do as a result hearing this? Vayishlach Shlomo et binayu v'nyo yidar lemor. Lech pega bo. Like before, the head of the SWAT team that's called the Kreti Upleti that we saw yesterday, Benau Ben Yoda seems to be the most promising military man in the nation. And we said yesterday as well, Chazal said there are alternative meetings that he's like the head of the Sanhedrin. Very decisive, lichrot, right? He decides laws, very clear cut. So we have someone, maybe we can say it's a combination of two things. He's the head of the Sanhedrin, yet he's head of also the military department of the SWAT team perhaps. And right now he's the man of defense, the minister of defense or the army for Shlomo. So now he too gets an order, like he did before, to go ahead, pegabo, hit him, meaning kill him. Okay? The orders are clear. How can the orders be so clear? Isn't it legal what Yoav is doing? Meaning right now he's holding on to the corners of the Mizbech. So there's a Gemara in this Masechet Makot, and Chazal there in the Talmud in Masechet Makot point out three mistakes that Yoav did. Number one, when it says Me'im Mizbachi Tikachenu Lamot, from my altar take him. Who would be holding on to the altar? A Kohen that's serving in the Beit HaMikdash. So only what the Mizbech can protect someone if he's a Kohen and he's doing the Avodah. If he's a Kohen and doing the Avodah, and you want to commit it, and you're saying committed a crime like murder right now, until he's still doing the work in the Beit HaMikdash, then the Mizbech can absorb him. That's mistake number one. Well, Yoav is not doing. By the way, which tribe is he from? Yehuda. He can't become a Kohen, right? Even if his Reform rabbi says to him, he can offer it to him, he cannot become a Kohen. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two, the Talmud says, Rak Beit Olamim Kolet. Only the holy Beit HaMikdash protects someone that committed a capital crime. Right now, this is not the Beit HaMikdash, nor is this a field of the Mishkan. It's not the tabernacle either. It's some sort of structure that David built in honor of the Holy Ark, that he was able to transport from the corridor of Yerushalayim to the city of David, and the Mizbech is there as well. So it's not Beit Olamim, and it's not even the Mishkan. Number three, the Talmud explains only the gag, the roof of the Mizbeach, absorbs someone, protects him, and not the kranot, not the corners, the horns, as we say, are there. Therefore,
What protects? Only the what?
only the gag, holding on to the gag, and not the keren, and not the corner of the Mizbeach. That's what the Talmud says. So these are three technicalities, and the order is clear from the king to have him killed. Let's read on and see what happens. Pasuk Lamed Vayvo v'nayo el Ohel Hashem. He's doing his order. He goes into the tent of God inside the city of David. Vayomer elav, and now starts a dialogue, which we'll see leads to Masau Matan, negotiation. Let's read it. Vayomer elav. Benayo tells Yoav, Ko Amar HaMelech. Wow, the king that's giving orders. And what is his order? Say, get out of here. What do you think? How do you understand? Get out of here. Why? What?
Face your destiny, like you're going to die.
Yeah, but what? Why get out of here? Just kill him on the spot.
Because he doesn't want blood to be spilled in a holy place.
Beautiful, beautiful. Ohel Hashem is the last place you want to go and spill blood. So take him out of the area, and then, firing squad and have him done. Vayomer, what is his response? But he acts with calmness. It's Vayomer. He's not speaking, not screaming. Lo, kifo amut. Huh? What's the matter? He doesn't understand. I was...
You want to do it, so do it here.
Right. I want to share with you, for many years when I would teach young boys to become bar mitzvah boys, and I would prepare them for readings of Torah, and I was doing it for, 30 years or so, and I stopped ever since we moved to where we moved to. I would often, for almost every student, take out a Sefer Torah in the synagogue, like on a Friday afternoon when no one's walking around the Beit Knesset, everyone's preparing for Shabbos, take out a Sefer Torah, and I would have him read. And this would alleviate any fear or trembling or fright in reading in the synagogue, and he would read from a Sefer Torah, and he would do that a week or a day before the actual bar mitzvah on Shabbos. I asked the Rav of our Yeshuv, and he wrote an article on this matter, and he brings various Rishonim and Achronim, that if you want to take a Sefer Torah out, but for private reasons, not for study of Torah, and not for public reasons, then it's not a simple thing. There are plenty of poskim that prohibit the taking it out. Why? To take a Sefer Torah out of the Aron HaKodesh, there has to be a specific, good, educational reason, like reading the Torah on Shabbat, on Yom Sheni v'Chamishi, learning from the Torah if you don't have published Chumashim. But if it's just for some personal reasons, no. There's Kvod Torah, and there's Kvod HaYichal, the Kvod of the Aron HaKodesh. Now, do we suspect that I found out for the first time last week, and the Bar Mitzvah boys, I met with him in a synagogue, but with the Tanakh, and not taking out the Sefer Torah from the Holy Ark. That's what Rav Yinon Klein, the Rav of our Yeshuv, said. Let me ask you, do you reasonably think that Yoav doesn't understand what kavod of the Holy Ark is? You don't think he studied 20 years in the yeshiva before he became the military? Of course he understands the honor of the place. So what's going on? Why does he refuse? Again? So this is part of a long excerpt of the Talmud, that this dialogue between Yoav ben Surya and Benayo, Yoav knows the following, quote, Harugei Beitin, those that are killed by the court of Israel are not to be buried in their family burial plots. Okay? The Malbim brings it, Chazal of course talked about it in the Talmud, and he says, I prefer not to be taken out of here and be killed by the court, let's say. The Beitin will kill me. Why? I want to be buried where? In my family plot area. And therefore, I'm not going to be budging. You want to kill me? Kill me here. He's thinking that he went thinking of the honor of burial. He wants to be in a preferred burial place with his family. So the Gemara says that he wouldn't be, if Beitin would put him to death, he wouldn't have that honor. He says, I prefer to die here, and as a result, I will be buried where? In the burial places of my father, my ancestors. Whereas if the Sanhedrin were to be killing him, then that would be really a different story. That would be a different story. But let's see what happens here in the negotiation. Vayashav Benayahu el Tamelech davar lemor. Benayahu goes back to the king, to Shlomo, and tells him what's going on. As you're well aware, there's no intercom system that Shlomo hears exactly what's going on inside the Ohel Hashem. He gives the story. Kodi ber Yoav v'choanani. That's what he said, and that's what he answered me. What does the king respond and say now? Okay. Vayomer lo hamelech aseh kasher diber. Do what he says. Meaning, ufgabo ukvarto. Here you see the hinting to the content of the dialogue.
Kill him inside there?
Kill him inside there, and ukvarto, let him be buried where?
With his family.
Very good. So that's the matter. In other words, Hamelech Shlomo has to speak with Benayahu, and it's not an easy thing to put to death someone who has so many stars, so many great things that he's done in the past, like Sar Tzava Yisrael. Yet Shlomo HaMelech now adds reason why I have to do it. This is the second part of the pasuk. Vasirota. When you're going to kill him, do you know what you're going to remove? Let's read the second part of the pasuk. Vasirota demei chinam. By doing so, killing him, innocent blood will be removed. What? Asher shafach Yoav me'alai u'me'al beit avi. Here we're talking about that the terrible thing that Yoav did by killing who? Innocently. Avner ben Ner, and who else? Avshalom. All that innocent blood that he killed. And the truth is, the Rambam in the laws of Rotzech, the laws of murderers in Perikei, Halacha Yudalid, at length deals with this matter and brings really that we don't take from the Mizbeach to kill anyone unless he was obligated the death penalty by the Beit Din with full testimony, okay? And that there was a forewarning, like all the Harugei Beit Din do. And if you ask yourself, what is the source of the Rambam? It apparently, the source is here. We don't have witnesses. Beit Din really cannot put him to death because we don't have either Edut, nor do we have Hatorah, forewarning, right? The Torah obligates, as the Talmud says, that in order to distinguish between Shogeg and Mezid, in order to distinguish between someone doing a crime without intention and with intention is a warning. When someone comes up to a person about to commit a crime, hey, do you not know that the Torah says this and this, and that if you do this, you're going to be punished? And then he says, I know it, but I don't care, and he does it, then it's clear to us after the testimony will be issued that he did it wantingly, willingly, and then therefore he can be really put to death according to the laws of the Torah in Sanhedrin. Okay? So really, the situation is, as we're continuing inside our shore right now upstairs, that was a hint to my wife, Ken. Let's go on as the Shlomo continues to speak in Pasuk Lamed Bet. He says, "Ve'shiv Hashem et damo." By doing so, you're restoring the blood al rosho. It says here clearly, "Asher paga b'shnei anashim." What type of people did he kill? Tzadikim v'tovim imenu. Why is he using tzadikim v'tovim imenu? I asked myself that question because these are people that wanted to join hands and create national unity when there was a time that there was a lot of tensity, a lot of difficult times between two major tribes in Israel, and they are Yehuda and Binyamin. And here Avner ben Ner saw the right time. You know what? I'm sick and tired of this disunity. It's time to have solidarity. It's time to have unity. And that was really the interest of Yoav. I'm sorry, of Avner ben Ner. So maybe that's the reason why the Tanakh calls them tzadikim v'tovim imenu. Vayargem b'cherev, and you kill them with the sword. V'yavi David, and my father didn't know about this, and they are called Avner ben Ner, Sar Tzava Yisrael, Vet Amasa ben Yeter, Sar Tzava Yuda. So here, there's enough reason why to have him killed from a Horava Melech, not by Beitin, and he'll get what he's going to get, and that is to be what? To be buried in his family place. The Tanakh continues in Lamed Gimel 33. V'shavu d'mehem berosh Yoav, meaning until now there's been innocent blood that's basically like been imposed on the head, innocent blood that David never took care of the din here. It was under the responsibility of David to make sure he do it, but David didn't punish them for various reasons. Maybe there was no Edim. Maybe, and remember, Yoav ben Tzruya is his nephew. Tzruya is David's sister. Maybe David is a little soft here. He had rachamim on him. So this innocent blood has been on what? Imposed on the Rosh of Yoav, uverosh zaro leolam. And David ulezaro uleveito lekiso, yes shalom ad olam mimachem. Now, complete peace will be brought to the house of David. David was already resting in peace. Din is now being made here. And right now, we believe that the blood that's been hovering over the head of Yoav, the fact that he's now being killed, that's like kapara. We believe that's like atonement, spiritual cleansing. And it's a midah keneged midah, it's a measure for a measure. He took the life away of these two prestigious ministers, army, par excellence people. And now, by having him killed, that sin is being cleansed by having him put to death. And that's exactly what Benao does in Lamed Dalet 34. Vayal Benao ben Yoyo. That's an interesting Vayal. Why is the word Vayal going up? What is he climbing a hill? But maybe he's going up to a level of total discipline to the king. Showing total discipline to the king is like for him an aliyah ruchanit. Maybe that could be the aliyah. Vayifkabo. He takes his sword and kills him. Vayimiteu. Vayikaver beveito bamidbar. Here you see.
Oh, that's what I mentioned.
So here, indeed, he's brought to familial burial. That's based upon this, the Talmud understood in the oral Torah that we're talking about burial right here. And you might ask, of all places to live, why is he living in the Midbar? So the Midrash says a few things. First, we could say, you live at the seam of the Midbar, am I right? Or mamash at the seam of the Midbar. Okay? So there are people that live next to the Midbar. We know the Midbar is really not a place, historically, of what? Of a populated area. It's hard to live there, very hot weather, lack of water, and so on and so forth.
I love the desert.
In spite of your love of the desert, we know that historically it's not an easy thing. Therefore, Chazal tried to look and share with us in depth what is the idea of Yoav and living in the Midbar. Rather, the truth is the following. Yoav was a tremendous, benevolent person. He would be giving of himself, of his resources to anyone and everyone. And he turned his house as if his house was hefker, ownerless, just like the desert is ownerless. And you can take what we're talking about, Yoav, of course. So Yoav made his house like hefker in the Midbar. He was very generous to the poor, to anyone and everyone. That's number one. Number two, the nation is impacted. The nation is affected by the execution of Yoav. With all due respect that he committed violations, but the fact that he was put to death, Israel felt like right now they're in a state of a desert, that we lost a leader, and therefore the Midbar here is mentioned. Those are the two midrashic understandings that are brought. Pshat, and with this we'll end today's shiur, I saw by the Abarbanel. The Barbanel says, indeed, his house was in the desert, unlike the Midrash says. But why? Because the desert area was an area where people would travel from the valley to the mountain area, and it was a place of sojourners, people, okay, moving on the road. And what did he want to do? He wanted to be like an Avram Avinu. He would open up a motel there and provide people for food and drink and so on. and therefore he had what we call a gmach. He had a beta tafshil. Today we call it a beta tafshil, right? There are institutions that cook for the poor, for the impoverished, and that's what he did. He lived in the midbar purposely in order to provide for people. And this better helps us understand how what an impact it is on the nation of Israel that they lost a leader, even though justifiably he was put to death because he committed capital crimes. With this, we'll continue tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem.